All right. Welcome to the Western Riverside Council of Governments Executive Committee meeting. If you're wondering why we haven't started yet, because we're supposed to start at 2, I'm wondering the same thing. So we're all together on that. I'll call to order the meeting, and I'd like to ask Mr. Kevin Bash to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, and right after that, I would like to read something regarding one of our lost members and a former chair of WRCOG.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Kevin. And I think most folks have heard the news that we lost someone who's been dear to us in the past, Mr. Jim Hyatt, who, well, I'll read the statement so I don't get lost here. And Jim was a good friend. Today's meeting is being held and will be adjourned in the honor of Councilmember Jim Hyatt from the city of Calimesa. He passed away last weekend. Councilmember Hyatt was most recently reelected to City Council in November 2018. He was a member of the Incorporation Committee, which resulted in the successful incorporation of Calimesa. He was elected as council member to the first Calimesa City Council upon its incorporation on December 1st, 1990. Jim also served as mayor 3 different times during his terms in office. Along with his service to Calimesa, he served as a member of Western Riverside Council of Governments Executive Committee and was our chair in 2013. He also held posts in the Riverside County Transportation Commission, the Western Riverside County Regional Conservation Authority, and Southern California Association of Governments, SCAG, where he was very active. Councilmember Hyatt worked tirelessly for the city of Calimesa for 30 years plus, making a difference in and for the community of Calimesa and its residents. Celebration of Jim's life will be held on May 18th at 11 a.m. at the Norton Young Love Senior Center in Calimesa. May he be remembered in our prayers and our thoughts for him and his family. Thank you. Next item on our agenda is public comments. I only have one slip here, unless we have someone also on the line that wants to speak. But our first public comment is Mr. Arnold San Miguel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the Executive Committee. We also did recognize James Hyatt at the SCAG Regional Council meeting at our regional conference this past week. He just got elected to the Regional Council, and so I was able to set that election up, and I had a lot of conversations with Jim, and one of the things he wanted me to make sure was that that election was held in an accessible place and at a time when everybody else, if they wanted to run against him and can vote, would be there. So I thought that was really interesting on Jim's part, but thank you. At your dais, there's a couple documents. One is the Where Will We Grow and Where Will We Connect booklet that is announcing the 26 public workshops for input on the, what we're calling Connect SoCal. That's the 2020-2045 Regional Transportation Plan and Sustainable Community Strategy. Excellent opportunity for anybody in the region to give their ideas on what they want to see to help this region move forward. So there's going to be 12 workshops in Riverside and San Bernardino County, 7 will be in Riverside County, and 1 will be dedicated for tribal representatives. Please plan on going, or your neighbors, your cousins, whoever you think should be able to give their input, please invite them to come. And I also want to bring your attention, oh, let me just mention one more thing on that. On SB 375, we will be having special workshops after the draft is released for elected officials. Let you know that also. So there's also the demographic summit, free to elected officials. No need to drive. It's at USC. No need to drive. You can take transit to get there. Encourage you to go to that. Thank you very much.
All right, Janice, do we have any other requests to speak?
I have no requests.
All right, thank you. We'll move on to item number 4, minutes from April 1st. Unless there are any requests to make comments about the minutes, corrections, recommended corrections, I'll accept a motion to approve the minutes. And a second. Supervisor Krupa. Are you requesting to speak? Your button is.
Point of order, I believe we need to take roll call.
You said Supervisor.
I know, it's a little inside joke. She knows what we're saying. I'm trying to get her to, somebody pressed your request to speak, so I thought maybe you had something else to. No? All right. Okay, awesome. Somebody's got their book sitting on it, but anyway. We'll finish the vote on minutes. And I think Janice wanted a roll call, and I skipped over that at the beginning, didn't I? You want to do it now? It's automatic. Rick says it's automatic, but.
It's not automatic. The only reason we do it is so it's accurately reflected in the minutes. However, everybody that's here was here at the beginning of the meeting, save Supervisor Jeffries, who was just a couple minutes late, but we're good.
Oh, take it out of his pay. All right, so do you want to do it, or?
Well, you know, lawyers were conservative. I would prefer that we just follow the standard rule and go through it.
I'm with him. I even have the T-shirt that says that. I'm with him. Janice, I'm going to go ahead and end it. I didn't get a vote from Marietta. I'm not, but I see her there.
Yes, sir.
So let's just say she's here.
Yes, sir.
All right. Christy, there's a button on the screen up top to vote, and that's how we do roll call. Oh, it's not there now, but. Oh, well, Janice. Okay. It's Rick's fault. All right, consent calendar. 5A through I, with 5A being an action item. And it looks like everything else after that is information. So I'll take a motion and a second. Please register votes in the consent calendar. So, Janice, maybe we have, because earlier it was showing somebody else's, one of the supervisors down there, I don't know which one, their button was requesting to speak, and then it was showing no vote for Marietta. Are they, oh, there he got it. Okay. That motion carries unanimously, 23 yeses. Section 6, reports and discussions. The first one is Aaron Sassy from the League of Cities. Good afternoon, Aaron.
Erin Sassy with the League of California Cities. Thank you for having me here today. Just a couple of items before I go into the extensive legislative update that I have to share with you. One, our next division meeting is this coming Monday, May 13th. It's going to be at the Living Desert in Palm Desert. Hopefully all of you can make it out there. I know we don't have everybody's RSVP yet, but it should be a great meeting. Our division president, Jan Arbuckle, is coming down to attend this meeting as well, so that's exciting. Voluntary tours are allowed before the event. And then also, one thing that I wanted to make sure you're all aware of is we have Jason Perez from the city of Corona on the CalPERS board. He was elected this last year, but we just got an appointment from the governor for Lisa Middleton. She's a council member from Palm Springs to the board. So now we have two members from Riverside County on the statewide CalPERS board, and I think that that's really great for our region. I think that you have two people that you can now communicate with, so I think we should use this as an opportunity to make sure that they understand exactly all of the concerns that your cities have. I think it's incredibly rare that we would ever have this many people on the CalPERS board, so really exciting. Lisa won't be at our meeting next Monday because they are meeting in Sacramento, but that should be the only conflict, and I think we'll probably have her give regular updates if we can at those meetings, so really exciting. The governor releases his May revise next week. The original budget did have a lot of positive things for cities, so we'll see how that shakes out next week. We think it'll be released on Tuesday, so more to come. A couple legislative items. I know in your packet you have some bills of interest from me. There's a lot on there. Our positions are starting to come out a little bit faster on our website. We have a hot bill list. I want to encourage all of you to go there. There's sample letters for those, but just a couple things I wanted to bring to your attention. One bill is AB 485 by Assemblyman Medina. It's kind of a complicated bill, but basically he, in the name of transparency, is putting all of these requirements on cities for when you provide economic incentives for warehouses, to locate a warehouse within your city. Basically, it's going to prohibit a city from using your own money to locate a warehouse. We are officially opposed to that. We talked to him about that bill when we were up in Sacramento for Lobby Day. We've heard that there may be some amendments coming out, so hopefully they'll be positive, so I'll keep you posted on that, but definitely look at that bill, especially since he's in our region, and it could have a bigger impact to our area than some other areas in the state. Another bill, AB 1356, and we do have sample letters available for this one, has to do with cannabis. Basically, if your city approved Prop 64, then you will be required to issue a minimum number of local licenses for cannabis retail or medical. So for your shops, and it's a combination of either medical or medical and retail. So you'll have to do 25% of the number of liquor licenses within your city. There's a lot of other formulas in this bill, but that would be the minimum requirement. So, yes.
You said if your city approved Prop 64, you mean it was a statewide initiative?
Yes.
If you go back and a majority of the voters in that
your city
approved Prop 64, then okay.
So 25% of the liquor licenses within your city. So in a city like Temecula, for example, you have all of the wineries. I'm not sure.
That's not in the city. That's county.
Okay, sorry, county. That would still be a requirement for this. I don't think it factored in restaurants. It's a lot broader than I think the intention was. So everybody really should be looking at this bill. It could be very significant. It's AB 1356. I know we have our opposition letter online, our sample letters online. It's a hot bill. Definitely one we want to oppose. By Ting. Another bill is AB 891. This really only applies to the city of Riverside, but I want to make sure that you're all aware because I think it's one of those bills that's a slippery slope. If this one passes, then it could creep down to other cities. But basically, it says that with a city of a population of 330,000 or more, you have to establish a safe parking program for individuals and families living within their cars. I know that there is a similar bill that requires this in some of our university systems, but this one applies to cities. AB 891. Another bill, AB 516. This one has been a little bit tough, and it's going to be even harder to stop. But AB 516 would eliminate the ability for cities to enforce your local vehicle license or violations. So it would eliminate the ability for you to immobilize or place a boot on vehicles. If you have 5 or more unpaid parking tickets, it would prohibit you from removing vehicles with expired registrations that are operating illegally, and it would prevent you from removing vehicles in violation of parking time restrictions. So the reason that they put forward this bill is they feel like it's unfair to some of the disadvantaged populations. But if you really look at it, I mean, 5 tickets that are unpaid, and there's this allowance that if you're on a payment plan, I think it was like $5 a month, and if you're in compliance with that, then they won't do these things. But this bill's been difficult. We've reached out to a lot of cities. Our opposition just came, but there's been no opposition on record. It's currently on consent in the Assembly, so we're hoping to get it pulled from consent. So I would recommend that all of you reach out to your legislators, ask them to at least get it off consent so we can get some of the opposition out there. And then all of you should be looking at this bill as well. So AB 516, we're officially opposed. I can get all of your opposition letter and our coalition opposition letter. Another really lovely bill, SB 330, is by Senator Skinner. This is the Housing Crisis Act of 2019. So basically, until January of 2030, a city may not downzone, impose parking requirements, increase impact fees, apply any fees to affordable housing, impose any sort of housing moratorium, impose design standards that are more costly than those in effect this year, and it prohibits you from establishing a maximum number of conditional use permits and enforcing existing growth management ordinances. So really just tying your hands. Not a lot of, this one's likely going to go through, so we're having a little bit of a hard time with that one. Sorry that these are all really negative, but another bill is AB 849. It has to do with elections and local redistricting, and this bill was recently amended. It originally applied to all cities, counties, special districts, school districts that have districts, but right now it's been amended so it's only applying to cities and counties. So basically when you go to redistrict, you will have a lot of very onerous requirements now on you. So you'll have to have several locations where you do your hearings. You'll have to transcribe everything into multiple languages. It's really an unfunded mandate, really difficult for our smaller cities to meet the requirements. So we should definitely be opposing this. It just makes it a lot harder for you to do the redistricting process, which many of you already don't want to be in and have already been forced to be in. So I want to encourage all of you to oppose this. Hopefully we can get the county to oppose as well, because it's now just us. And because they've eliminated the special districts and school districts, it reduces the cost of this bill, which means it's likely going to get out of appropriations, and it's going to be very difficult for us to stop. When it was everybody involved, we thought we had a really good chance of killing the bill, but now with it's just being cities and counties, it's going to be very, very challenging. So this bill will likely move through. So talk to all of your legislators about it and get your opposition letters in. Lastly, one other bill I wanted to bring up is a little bit complicated, but it's AB 1332, once again by Bonta. Basically, this bill kind of is similar to our former contracting bill, AB 1250, that all of you were pretty much opposed to. This would limit your ability to contract with a variety of public services. It's companies like IBM and Microsoft and Motorola. So it has implications for your police departments as well, because that's a lot of the communication devices, computers. So we have an action alert out on this. I'll be sending it out today. I just got it, so you'll have all of that, which includes a sample letter. Like I said, lots of really great news. There's a lot of other bills, but I don't want to take up your whole afternoon. Look at that bill list that I sent out as part of the agenda, but please start getting these letters in. I know that we're starting to get into crunch time because all the bills are now in appropes and on the floor. So with that, happy to take any questions.
Seems like they have too much time on their hands.
Oh, I actually have one more thing, sorry. No. I feel like I have no positive information at this point, other than we have 2 members on CalPERS. Okay, sorry. So there's been obviously a lot going on the housing front. When we were up at Lobby Day, SB 50, which I know a lot of you have been talking about, merged with SB4. And we're still kind of trying to sort out all the particulars, but the one thing I want to say is that it's going to be treating communities in large counties very differently than communities in small counties. Riverside is considered a large county, so this bill will now require all of the, it creates a divide. So cities within large counties that are 50,000 or less will have to meet the new requirements of this bill. Cities that are in a small county and 50,000 or less will not. One of the requirements is that everybody will have to now allow for fourplexes. They will have to build the transit in the high transit areas, which now also applies to bus stops. So if you have bus stops in your communities that the bus comes every 15 minutes, it would now apply to you. But like I said, there's a divide. So smaller county populations won't have to do these, but our county will. So I will be getting some information out on exactly what this bill does, but it has to do with transit and housing in the high transit corridors. So I know it didn't really apply to everybody before, but there's a lot of requirements that now will apply to all of you. So not very good news, but with that, happy to take questions.
Yeah, but other than that, City of Temecula.
Okay, let's go back to the cannabis thing.
Yes.
So is it hard liquor license or is it beer and wine license too?
I believe it applies to both, because that was one of the things that we were talking about, is that it wasn't very specific. So our interpretation was that any liquor license.
Now is that, but we're talking like retail sales, not service.
It could apply to service yeah, so it's very broad.
Wow.
It's a lot.
Hope Valley.
Hi, Aaron. Over here, to your right. There you
Okay,
go.
I'm like, where are you?
I don't want to get your neck twisted there. Can you bring us or send us by way of email a list with a short synopsis of each one of these bills so we can present to our city councils?
It should be in your agenda.
Is it in the agenda?
Yeah.
What each one of them is?
Other than
I
SB 50.
didn't see it in there.
Because that
Okay.
one is really complicated, and I'm still trying to get exactly
Okay, thank you.
what it is.
Thank you.
Excellent. Looks like our 5th District Supervisor would like to speak.
Hi, Aaron. Now, to clear this up one more time on the cannabis bill, you said cities who, within their city limits, voted 50% plus 1 for 64 would have to follow this, but cities that are 50% minus 1 don't?
Yes.
Well, Calamasa was like 40%. It was so some small one, which is good because we have more liquor licenses per capita than anybody, so that might be right.
What was the bill number?
Was it 13? So what was that? What was 1356? Yeah.
Yeah, 1356.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I don't see any other requests in the queue. Excellent, Aaron. As
Sorry
usual.
for all the great news.
Yeah, well, at least we're getting the news
Yes.
as opposed to being in the dark. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your time.
Much appreciated. Our next item is 6B, a presentation by the Inland Empire Economic Partnership on middle-class jobs. And here to address the issue, and we're going to have a presentation from Paul Granillo. Last week, Rick wants me to read this part. Last week, WRCOG, it was me, I'm sorry, sent out an e-blast mentioning that the report that you're about to hear, summarized from our guest, Paul Granillo, was produced by IEP. In fact, the report was developed by the Brookings Institute Metropolitan Policy Program. IEP, like WRCOG and many others, served as advisors and reviewers of the report as it was being developed. With that clarification, welcome, Paul.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the council. I'm really here as part of a team that has been working on what we call IE-GO for the last 2 years. And that team includes our lead academic institutions. It includes our leading civic institutions and our business institutions. And it's been a fascinating process. And those of you who sit at this on this dais know that working together is not always an easy thing. And when we start to have to work together across county lines and bring in cities and bring in business interests, especially in the Inland Empire, that's not going to be an easy thing. What I want to leave you first and foremost is this has been a very good process. This is something that I think the Inland Empire leadership should be very proud of. We have a lot of threats to the economy of Riverside and San Bernardino counties, and we have a lot of great opportunities. We just have to make sure that we're coming together and taking advantage of those opportunities. I'm going to briefly go through the presentation, but I would really like to focus on what the recommendations are, so I'm going to kind of speed through this piece. So we're going to recap the goals, talk a little bit about the process. As the chair said, the Brookings report is really what's driving this. We've had some document, we'll do some document overviews and then next steps and discussions. So really this is what we're trying to accomplish, to develop actionable strategies and initial tactics along with commitments for implementation focused on growing more middle-skilled, middle-income jobs and ensuring access to them. The reality is, of regions of over 1 million people in the United States, the Inland Empire has the lowest baccalaureate attainment in the nation. 21% of our 4.6 million residents have a baccalaureate degree. So a lot of this pressure is because of that. And a lot of that happens because of really the cost of housing. A lot of people without a baccalaureate degree are being priced out of Los Angeles and Orange County, and they continue to move inland. But they're not bringing that educational level. So that's our number one, I think, challenge. So this just gives you a little bit sense of, we've been at it since October of 2017. We're at the end of the chart right there, which is finalization, launch, institutional ownership, governance established, and then an ongoing communications plan. This is the cited Brookings work. It was focused on the economy of the Inland Empire. At the end of the presentation, you'll see that there's a website that has all this information there, and I'm sure Rick can get this to you if you haven't already seen it. So, basically, 43% of the inland region's residents belong to families that are struggling to make ends meet. And this is in 2016, 43%. So of children, that's about 45%, adults 39%, seniors 36%. And so we have to be very concerned about where jobs are going to be for our region in the future. So you can see that there's about 1,500,000 jobs in the region, and about 500,000 of those break down into the category of promising, good and promising, high-skilled, okay? And then we have that 54.2%, right, which remains the challenge for us. So, as you take a look at this one, this breaks out into promising sub-baccalaureate jobs, good sub-baccalaureate jobs, high-skilled jobs, and then you can see how it aligns with the different sectors of the economy. I'll leave that up for just a second. So, this just makes common sense, right? The more education you have, the better opportunities you have. And you can see for those with baccalaureate attainment what that means. Associate's degree, some college or a certificate, and then high school diploma, which is the majority of our residents. All right, so what are we trying to get to? We want to advance the capabilities and competitiveness of our local firms in opportunity-rich manufacturing and logistics industries, diversify the region's economic base by developing new technological and industrial capabilities that complement its logistics and manufacturing specializations, connect people to the information, education, and resources they need to obtain a new job now or in the future. So we have one of the largest logistics sectors in the world, and we all know that, okay? And we all know the good and the bad of that, all right? When we get to the recommendations, what we have to understand is there is billions and billions of dollars that are coming and being spent here in the Inland Empire. 6 years ago, Amazon was not in the Inland Empire. 6 years later, it's their largest footprint in the nation here in these two counties, and they've invested on their own $6 billion into the region. Now remember, everybody was chasing the headquarters, and that was a $5 billion investment. Amazon has already put $6 billion here, and they will continue to do that. So when you hear that logistics piece, I want to put a hold on it there because we're going to talk about how we can take advantage of that. Manufacturing in California is not growing at the rate that manufacturing is in the United States, but the manufacturing sector of the economy remains incredibly strong. Okay. So we had some working groups. This was the Foundational Industries Working Group, and you can take a look there and see what they were tasked to do. The Emerging Industries Working Group and what they worked on. The Skills and Access Working Group. I said that we're part of a team. I think IEGO has been a success to this point because of the hard work of Lou Monville. Lou has really been able to cross government and business entities and keep the glue together. Our co-chairs, Paulette Brown-Hines and Al Arguello, have been fantastic in leading the work. Dr. Karthik Ramakrishnan really trying to lead this group of several economists that worked with Brookings in order to come up with the outcomes and the recommendations. Okay, so key threats, obviously automation. Work out of the University of Redlands by Dr. Johannes Munoz currently says 60% of our current jobs are susceptible to automation. Brookings came out about a month ago and said 47% of our current jobs are subject to automation. That doesn't take into account what new jobs will be created, but there's obviously a threat from automation, okay? We have assets and initiatives that can grow advanced manufacturing. Emerging sectors offer opportunities for economic diversification, and workforce development efforts in the region are very strong. Okay, so the number one part of the framework is to make the region a home of global innovation in the logistics industry. So this is how we're trying to get there. To establish a consortium of excellence. IEP has been very involved in this because we're the host for the Southern California Logistics Council. So that's UPS, Amazon, Walmart, Coca-Cola, the two railroads, all very involved in the industry here. The Brookings Institute suggested that we travel to Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech has a very successful logistics center. It's based in Georgia Tech is in Atlanta, so are the headquarters of Coca-Cola and Home Depot and UPS, and so there's a synergy there. And so we've been very excited about those discussions. People from Georgia Tech have been out. They've met with leadership at UCR, Cal State San Bernardino, the Claremont colleges, and our local community colleges about how we would go about setting up this consortium of excellence. The Logistics Training Collaborative. All of these pieces are involved in this Center of Excellence, Consortium of Excellence. How do we train people, right, with advanced skills to work in the logistics industry of the future, which is going to mean the care and feeding of robots and automated systems, and it's going to be much more advanced. So how are we going to prepare people to do that? One of the pieces of the economy that we don't have in the Inland Empire are really administrative offices. The Fortune 500 do work here, but their administrative offices aren't here. Georgia Tech is a natural feeder for young people with four-year degrees into administration in Coke and UPS, and yet the vast majority of where they're working and making money is here in Southern California. So how can we try to switch that balance to get those higher, better paying jobs here? And then the other piece is research. And the research component is incredibly important. What are the new technologies that are coming? How are we going to, I just believe that the drones are coming. Someday you're going to have to face that. The drones are coming. And we had a presentation from UPS in Africa, where they're dealing with illnesses. UPS is already using drones to take medicine to places where they use the example of Ebola. So UPS is flying drones with medicine to places that are affected with Ebola. So for them, it's not the future, it's now. So how do we take advantage of that? How do we lead in that? The secure investments, this really has to be industry driven. So we're not looking to government necessarily to fund this, we're looking to industry to fund this. And that's what we like about the Georgia Tech model, because they're already investing millions of dollars into Georgia Tech. What we want to help them do is to maybe invest a little more so that we can focus here. The region's advanced manufacturing. What is advanced manufacturing? It's very broad, but computers, automation, more and more things are manufactured in that way. And so how do we, again, take advantage of that? We have the Fortune 500 here, BMW and its parts. Many of those are being 3D printed somewhere in a warehouse in Riverside or San Bernardino counties, right? How do we take advantage of that? How do we grow our advanced manufacturing sector? The answer is to try and set up another consortium around advanced manufacturing. And if you talk to economists, they'll tell you that this logistics and manufacturing arms, at some point they're going to come together, right? Because you want to make the thing as close to where you can put it on as you can sell it, all right? And that's where manufacturing and logistics come together. Promising industries. Many of you know, especially Riverside, that the carb facility is coming to Riverside. It's a great opportunity. It's a great opportunity. And I know that we live sometimes in a polarized world around logistics, but if we could bring the people that buy and invest in equipment to move cargo and pair them with our researchers, the hope would be that we become have the most clean logistics industry in the world, all right? There are ideas that I've heard about passenger trains. Many of you might know of the Arrow, the rail to Redlands. It's going to use a DMU, a diesel multiple units, a smaller train, but the hope is that you get to a point where that's battery operated, zero emission. So how does that affect logistics? If you put a car on there that UPS or FedEx can just offload as they go from neighborhood to neighborhood, offload the boxes, right? It takes hundreds of trucks off the roads and reduces congestion. So those are some of the cutting edge ideas that we're looking at. Solar energy and storage, obviously because of California's mandates for implementation of solar, we have a great opportunity to build on that. And then cybersecurity. Cal State San Bernardino is doing wonderful work in cybersecurity right now, and we want to grow that. And then we got to deal with our education issues. And so how do we become the innovator in work-based and career technical education? Dr. White is here. Dr. White and I serve on the board of Growing Inland Achievement. The board is made up of Chancellor Wilcox, President Morales, Judy, Ted Alejandre, the superintendent from San Bernardino County, myself, and Sheila Thornton from One Future Coachella Valley. Really trying to focus on the 21% attainment goal and then to grow our outreach in workforce. And so this is something that we're already doing and we just want to build on. So this is where we are right now. We talked a little bit about the work in logistics. We're also working with the Manufacturing Council of the Inland Empire on the advanced manufacturing. Obviously, a lot of discussions going on around the CARB facility. We're talking with Cal State San Bernardino on the cybersecurity. And then we're working, again, on our education and workforce issues. And working with the Community Foundation to make sure that this work continues forward, okay? So that's the presentation. I'll close with what I started with. People are working together who have traditionally not worked together. Hard work, sometimes difficult work, but the numbers are what they are. There are challenges, but there are also great opportunities. We're very close as a region to passing Louisiana. Then we would become the 23rd largest state by population, right? So in all those other states smaller than us, the state government takes care of these issues, right? For us, we need you and your partners in San Bernardino and all the leadership of the cities to come together and work on these issues together with business, together with our education partners, together with our nonprofits. That's heavy work, but I think this is a good start. Thank you. And if there are any questions, Mr. Chair.
It looks like there are. Is that you, District 1? Did you have a question? Okay. You're up.
Oh, that was quick. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for being able to serve on the steering committee of this effort, although my attendance doesn't deserve being on the steering committee. Just can't make enough meetings. I'm concerned, and I've been concerned, the logistics leadership, the logistics industry that we're leading in, obviously has a double-edged sword for us in that it provides relatively good jobs, better than fast food industry jobs, anyways, at least. But we collectively as a county, as a region, have not been able to resolve the impact of the logistics industry on our freeways. And it's eventually going to lead, in my opinion, to a moratorium on new development of industrial buildings as we go from gridlock of an F to an F minus. I don't know what's past that. We have to find a solution to move those goods. And in the report, it makes mention of the multimodal approach to moving goods, which we absolutely, positively have to do in Riverside County, except for RCTC settled a lawsuit that said we would not develop a multimodal port in the western half of Riverside County, or at least the 215 corridor. So we, being Riverside County, we, WRCOG, have to work around that lawsuit settlement that RCTC entered into and do it on our own. Because if we don't do something to move goods by rail, we're done. I mean, look at the 215 today. You can't get here in the morning. You can't leave here in the afternoon. That's not going to serve the industry or the residents well going forward. And the report only touches on that very, very lightly, that we need that solution. And so I'm wondering if you have any insight as to how we're going to kick everybody in gear, because it impacts Menifee, Paris, Riverside City, March JPA, Moreno Valley, impacts that whole corridor and everybody trying to move through there.
Yeah.
Any thoughts?
Yeah, no, Supervisor Jeffries, I agree with you on just about everything you said. I think at a couple of levels. One, when you look at the work that Georgia Tech is doing in Georgia, there's a lot of state support, right, to try and make sure that you're keeping this balance of jobs, but also dealing with congestion and pollution. And we have to look at ways that that is being done. In some ways, what I've learned from Georgia Tech is that in Europe, there are much more difficult congestion and pollution regulatory schemes, and they're making it work there. So there are things that we can learn. The inland port, we're working right now. We had Bud Culligan on Friday, and Bud is Governor Newsom's chief advisor on trade and foreign international relations. And so we took him to the Ontario airport. He heard a lot about this congestion and the issue. We drove him to a company in Corona down the 15, right past Eastvale to the 91 on Friday at 2 o'clock. And he's like, where are all these people going that were going northbound, right? So he saw it. I also think that the governor's office is interested in regional economic development and that there's a great opportunity for alignment on these things and perhaps some policy ways to deal with this. And the other piece I would say is that the industry itself is looking to have smaller footprints closer to where people need their goods and that are, several stories up. But they also know that they can't do it. And even UPS now is flying more flights into San Bernardino Airport just because of the time it would take to get a truck from Ontario to San Bernardino. So you have good points. I think they're all addressable. And the more we work with the people that are doing this, I think the better ideas that we can have to bring to our policymakers.
Okay, any other questions? Well, thank you for the presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Yeah, that was a receive and file. Andrew's here to talk about a preliminary draft fiscal year agency budget 1920. Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Andrew Ruiz, interim CFO with WRCOG, here to present our draft 1920 budget. So here at WRCOG, we have 4 departments. We have administration, transportation and planning, energy, and environment that operate all these programs you see here. Jumping right into it, the administration department expenditures include all general administrative expenses that aren't tied to a specific program, such as audit, other legal, bank, IT, and other consulting fees. So overhead is charged to the other departments to make up that difference needed in administration. So total departmental revenues and expenditures equal $2.6 million. Next, our transportation and planning department has the following revenue sources you see here, with TUMP being the largest. While we are on pace to collect more than $50 million from TUMP this year, we just decided to be conservative with our numbers going into next year, so we've kept that relatively flat. So total departmental revenues of $51.3 million, with expenditures coming in at about $48.8 million. The difference there is what we expect to pay out in TUMP project reimbursements is less than what we anticipate to bring in TUMP revenues. TUMP's been doing very well in recent years, so collections have been outpacing project reimbursements, but there have been years where that's been flipped the other way. Next up is our energy department that has the following revenue sources, with Pace Residential being the largest. Pace Residential revenues continue to decline, so what we've budgeted for here going into 1920 is actually a 50% decrease of what we budgeted for in 1819. One thing I did want to highlight with the energy department is the streetlight program will be self-sustaining going into 1920. Overall, we still have balanced budget in the energy department with total revenues of $3 million with matching expenditures. And lastly, we have our environment department with the following revenue sources here. The major change we have going into fiscal year 1920 is previously we only had a portion of the city of Riverside's used oil contract, but now we've taken it all over. So that's the major change in the environment department. Overall total departmental revenues of $700,000 with matching expenditures. And that's the total agency budget. I did want to touch on a few fiscal related goals as we're going into fiscal year 1920. One thing I wanted to talk about is the PERS unfunded liability. I had reached out to PERS earlier this year with an updated schedule on our unfunded liability, and PERS doesn't anticipate any investment earnings. So there will most likely be an increase in our unfunded liability going into next year. So they presented me with an updated schedule that looked to be about a 15% increase. So ours is about $3 million, and they showed me a schedule of it jumping up to about $3.4 million. Additionally, the standard term for the unfunded liability is about 30 years. And if you pay that out over 30 years, you end up paying close to $6.6 million. So we're looking for options on either potentially paying down the principal, switching up our terms, or doing a combination of both. Secondly, we're looking to potentially sublease out a portion of our existing office space or relocate to a smaller space within the building we're currently occupying, the Citrus Towers. So just a little bit of background, we moved from the County Administrative Center to Citrus Towers back in January of 2018. And after being there a little bit over a year, we've assessed our space needs, and we've come to the conclusion that we don't need all the space that we're currently in right now. So we just thought it was in our best interest to potentially sublease out some space, but we've actually been having some additional discussions with ownership, and they've presented us with a pretty interesting offer, and that is to move down to the second floor because they have a tenant that's interested in moving up to the fourth floor. So we are looking for revised direction in the requested action to potentially negotiate into a sublease and to potentially move down to the second floor if this option works out with building ownership. And lastly, as PACE residential revenues continue to decline, we're continuing to expand our efforts on expanding the PACE commercial program. We've brought on additional providers this fiscal year. We anticipate on bringing on more next fiscal year, but we've also expanded the program to do things such as refinancing. So we're just looking for any and all ways to offset the reduction in the PACE residential. So that concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions. As I noted, we're looking for a revised direction on the second requested action. I'll defer to Steve on how that would be worded, but happy to answer any questions.
And when would we be adopting the budget? This is just a draft review, right?
So we'll adopt it at the General Assembly.
At the General Assembly. And looks like City of Corona would like to speak.
I'm right here. I just wanted to make sure that I heard you correctly, that CalPERS is looking at a 15% increase for the coming year.
So they don't anticipate any investment earnings and what that will in turn, at least for us specifically, looks like about a 15% increase.
Okay.
So
thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions, comments? Mr. Bishop?
Yeah, so I just make a comment. So the preliminary draft budget that the executive committee had presented to them today, you'll have it presented again at your June meeting, and then between now and then, it is also going through a review 2 times from the technical advisory committee, the finance directors, the planning directors, and the public works director. So there's thorough review before it comes back to you at your June meeting. At that time, you will be requested to forward it to the General Assembly. It's at the General Assembly where the actual fiscal year budget is adopted.
And we will have another look at it at Admin and Finance.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Andrew. So right now, the requested action, receive and file the draft preliminary budget and authorize the executive director in consultation with the chair. I don't know if I like the sound of that. Legal counsel to negotiate and execute sublease for a portion of WRCOG's office space, but that part is still in flux.
Mr. Chair.
Could include relocation.
If we could just add to the end of that, and possible relocation within the Citrus Tower.
Okay, and that was what I was negotiating here with Rick. In the meantime, we got a motion and a second. So is the maker of the motion willing to amend their motion to what county council, or what our council just
Yes.
Said, and the second maker of the second was Hemet. All right. Please register your votes. Okay, that motion carries unanimously with 22 yes votes. Thank you. Good report. Let's see, now we're down to Regional Energy Network Development Activities Update.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Good afternoon. Anthony Segura, analyst in WRCOG's Energy and Environmental Department. Today I'm here to provide an update on the Regional Energy Network. To start things off, back in 2009, the California Public Utilities Commission authorized investor-owned utilities such as Southern California Edison and Southern California Gas Company to work with local governments to work in the field of a local government partnership to help retrofit municipal facilities with the latest and greatest energy efficiency projects such as lighting, HVAC, pool heaters, but also promote residential and commercial programs and focus on California's strategic energy plan. In 2010, WRCOG formed the Western Riverside Energy Partnership, which helps a lot of WRCOG member agencies to meet these goals. Since its inception in 2010, REP, Western Riverside Energy Partnership, has assisted over 15 WRCOG member agencies to achieve an energy savings of over 16 million kilowatts and a gas savings of 10,000 therms. Some challenges occurred in 2018 when the CPUC decided to change the local government structure, in which it eliminated programs, decreased funding, eliminated strategic plan funding, and both Edison and the gas company are outsourcing 60% of their energy programs, and within the 60%, local government partnerships such as REP is also included. This is affecting currently 40 active partnerships within the state, and the reason for this outsource is that the IUs are diverting the resources to identify other methods of identifying energy savings, but also gas savings. As a potential solution, WRCOG has partnered with the San Bernardino Council of Governments, SBCOG, and Coachella Valley Association of Governments to create a regional energy network. A regional energy network is similar to that of a local government partnership, such as REP, whereas they help their member agencies to conduct energy efficiency projects, but they also have the ability to create and administer their own programs. RENs utilize the same ratepayer funds that local government partnerships utilize, and also work with the California Energy Commission and Department of Energy to access funds to provide programs to its members. These funds are only available at the moment for utilities and regional energy networks. The primary focus of regional energy networks, as mandated by the California Public Utilities Commission, is to undertake programs that the IUs do not or cannot administer, target hard-to-reach customers, and provide programs that could be scalable to larger geographic regions. For a regional energy network and a local government partnership program comparison, such as REP focuses on 3 platforms: project support for municipalities, technical assistance through consultant support, and community outreach for both residents and small commercial businesses. A regional energy network will also work on these 3 platforms, but also provide additional benefits, such as a residential energy efficiency component for single and multifamily housing, innovative technologies such as battery storage, and also work with community colleges and contractors within Riverside County and San Bernardino County for workforce education and training in the field of energy efficiency. So to date, there are 3 active RENs: Bay REN, which is administered by the Association of Bay Area of Governments; SoCal REN, which is administered by LA County; and the newly formed 3C REN, which is administered by the counties of Santa Barbara, San Luis Obispo, and Ventura. So as mentioned earlier, RENs, regional energy networks, and local government partnerships have the same access of funds to utilize energy programs, but there is a huge difference. For local government partnerships, the CPUC provides the funds to the IUs, so Edison and the gas company, and from there those funds come directly to the administrator of a local government partnership. The difference for a REN is the CPUC directly provides that funding to a REN. And I would like to note that RENs are local government programs driven by local governments. So for a REN to create and administer their own programs from the bottom up is a great reason why there's more funding, because they have to start identifying this program sectors, if there's consultants that needs to be provided, and also the staff allocated to this program. So for 2019, these are the budgets for the 3 RENs and also the Western Riverside Energy Partnership. So So as stated earlier, the proposed REN will focus the inclusion of WRCOG, SBCOG, and CVAG. The reason for this, the larger region is anticipated to look more acceptable at the CPUC to get approved, but also by utilizing all three agencies' knowledge and resources, we feel that we could provide the best programs that could be met for the region. Some REN progress to date activities. Back in December 2018, the Executive Committee approved the release of an RFP for regional energy development. The interviews for the consultant for a REN occurred in March of this year, and within the month of April, staff provided updates at various WRCOG committees. And for the month of May, WRCOG, SBCOG, and CVAG are working together to finalize the joint MOU, but also initiate the work with the selected consultant. This concludes my presentation, but I'd be more than happy to answer any questions, and I would like to note that there is a requested action for the Executive Committee to authorize the Executive Director to enter into contract negotiations with the consultant, Frontier Energy, for REN work.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions so far? Seeing none, the requested action is to authorize the Executive Director to enter into a contract agreement with Frontier Energy for REN development. Can I get a motion? Motion and a second. And Crystal, you get extra cookies today. You're always in there. Motion or second. That motion is approved with 20 yes, 0 no's, and 1 abstention. Thank you. And we'll move down to 28th Annual General Assembly and Leadership Conference, selection of recipients for Outstanding Community Service Awards.
Good afternoon, members of the committee. Cynthia Mejia, WRCOG staff analyst, here to provide you an update on the 28th Annual General Assembly and Leadership Conference and obtain a recommendation for this year's Community Service Award recipients. This year's event is scheduled for June 20th, 2019 at the Pechanga Resort and Casino. And this year, WRCOG has expanded the event from the traditional dinner event to a full-day conference, which will feature a Future of Cities Symposium from the morning to the early afternoon before the General Assembly receptions and dinner and keynote address. At its General Assembly, WRCOG recognizes an individual and/or organization that exemplifies outstanding leadership in community service to Western Riverside County. A list of prior award winners is listed on screen and is in your agenda packets for reference. This year, staff called for submissions on March 8th and asked that all nominations be submitted by Friday, March 29th, which was a soft deadline so that staff could prepare the necessary materials prior to the April Administration and Finance Committee. However, additional nominations are always welcome in committee. Altogether, staff received 12 unique nominations, including those listed on screen, ranging from individuals to nonprofit organizations to a municipal agency. In reviewing those nominees, the Administration and Finance Committee decided to forward recommendations in 3 categories, including one for a nonprofit organization, another for an individual, and another for a public sector entity. The committee also suggested that individuals receiving the award not be current elected officials. The nonprofit organization that was nominated to receive the award is the Social Work Action Group, or SWAG, which currently partners with 6 Riverside County cities to provide homeless outreach services and has contributed to hundreds of successful street exits or transitional housing efforts for previously homeless individuals. The individual that was nominated to receive the award is Tom Evans, who retired in December 2018 from the Western Municipal Water District after serving as a board director for several terms. During his tenure at Western, Mr. Evans also served on several regional boards and was the first Western representative to serve on WRCOG's executive committee when they first joined WRCOG's as a member in 2008. Mr. Evans dedicated over 35 years in the water, electric, and gas utility management industries and also served as an interim city manager for several WRCOG member agencies. The public sector agency that was nominated is the City of Lake Elsinore, which since August of last year has faced 4 extreme natural disasters and events that have threatened the safety of residents, tested the strength of the community, and challenged city staff in responding to the holy fire, debris flows following periods of heavy rain, a significant fish kill in the lake, and the wildflower superbloom, which attracted thousands of visitors to the city, causing delays on the freeways and roadways, attracting national media attention. Through all of these events, the entire community and city government stepped up to ensure the safety of the community. Today's recommendation is to approve the nominees for the 2019 Award for Outstanding Community Service to be presented at the 28th Annual General Assembly and Leadership Conference. Those nominees include SWAG, the Social Work Action Group, Tom Evans, and the City of Lake Elsinore. That concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Cynthia, thank you. The City of Lake Elsinore just won a competition weekend in a reality rally, and I think maybe that's enough wins for 1 year. Mr. Tisdale, no?
Sir?
All right.
It wasn't really a win, it was our 8th time. So I don't know if we call it a win anymore, it just belongs to us.
City of Calamasa.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, I want to say thank you for opening today's meeting in honor of Mr. Jim Hyatt. I appreciate that, and I appreciate COG staff. And this is very purposeful. I asked them to leave Mr. Hyatt's name up here at the dais. I appreciate that. And I'm just wondering if maybe this could continue to the General Conference and we could take a moment at that and see what the appetite might be here for this body to, in June, to make one more recognition for the service that Mr. Hyatt did for our region in the city of Calamasa. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. Excellent suggestion. So let's see, back to what you need. You need us to approve the nominees for the different awards that you mentioned to be presented at the 28th Annual General Assembly and Leadership Conference.
That's correct.
Was that Mayor Bailey yelling out? Okay. And if he doesn't get to push the button, he'll yell at me about it. No, we're clearing that one out. To clear that out so that Mayor Bailey can clear it out, start over. All right. Get ready, Rusty, get ready. Here it comes. I blocked for you. All right, we still got a few voting. There we go. 21 yes votes.
Just to be clear, that includes the recognition for Jim.
Our executive director asked if that included the recognition for Jim at the General Assembly, and if it didn't, I'll make sure it does. We will honor him. All right. Enough said about that.
Thank you.
We'll get it done. Report from Technical Advisory Committee Chair, Mr. George Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Technical Advisory Committee did meet on April 18th, and we had very good attendance and some robust discussion. A couple items I want to share with the committee today is we had some discussion about the upcoming updates associated with RENA numbers. Typically that is a SCAG responsibility. However, SCAG does allow delegation to a subregion to take on that activity. After some discussion, it was unanimous from the TAC that we would recommend that we continue to allow SCAG to take on that responsibility and not really try to have some infighting within our county family. It would be better to keep that at the SCAG level. The housing numbers would probably stay the same anyway, and I'm sure Arnold would probably agree with that. It's probably best left at the SCAG level, so wanted to share that with you today. And then also we had the opportunity to welcome in a number of our public service fellows who came and presented at the close of their fellow work, and I think we had close to 10 fellows present, and it was very enlightening, very inspiring, and very encouraging to see these young people who kind of shared their experiences with different agencies across Western Riverside County, the great experience they did have. And it really bodes well for the future. I think we are going to be very well served when these young people take a position in local government. So very excited about what that future holds. And with that, that concludes my summary.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. And correct my memory if I'm wrong, but didn't we also have an understanding that if individual jurisdictions decide to take on the RENA process themselves, the amount of funding that would come to them by way of SCAG would not be adequate to cover the process?
That is a very accurate statement, yes.
Okay, so I know for all of us, money is tight. Certainly don't want to take on any additional debt. Yeah.
If I could add to that, I just wanted to clarify that the offer for councils of governments to take on the responsibility is on the table, but although I think that this Council of Governments is going to decline that opportunity, SCAG has told us that any two jurisdictions can get together and take on the responsibility themselves. So if you're looking to do that, I would suggest take a look at the materials that we've presented and kind of compare our analysis to the pros and cons of you performing that function yourselves, and then you can certainly come to that conclusion. But I think the offer still is there for local jurisdictions and any combination of more than one to do it.
All right. Thank you. You might as well... I'm sorry, got a couple more reports. Then I'll get to you, Mr. Bishop. Any other SCAG, Regional Council Policy Committee representatives that would like to make comments at this time? Seeing none. Mr. Benoit, AQMD.
Sure. Just really quickly, two quick updates. One is AQMD has been looking at a self-taxing, or sorry, not self-taxing, but a taxing authority bill that's been up in the state Senate. And over the last couple of weeks, it's actually morphed a little bit, and quite frankly, is in the potential of being, as they say up in Sacramento, kidnapped. So our board actually took a pause and actually wanted to reach out to a lot of the different organizations and, stop the author, or ask the author to stop the legislation for right now. And then there was a subcommittee hearing, and it went ahead and got out of committee, even though AQMD was at that time saying, wait, let's hold on a minute. And what it was there's a person out of the LA area that likes to run metropolitan organizations tax bills or sales tax measures, and that person seems to be somewhat hijacking the bill. So that's up for discussion, and we have a retreat out in the desert on Thursday and Friday, and that'll be a big part of the discussion out there for that bill as to whether or not the agency as a whole just takes a step back and decides to probably wait on that, since this bill seems to be moving on its own without the Air District's real input. And I think that's really where it becomes a local control issue. If there was to be a bill for tax measure for clean air, we want to make sure that the Air District is actually running that, not some other outside group. Besides that, there was also an election for vice chair, and I'm proud to say that once again, a representative here from Riverside is now the vice chair of the AQMD board again. Woo-hoo! So I'm happy to be taking that role, and hope do everything I can to help promote our clean air, but also make sure that they recognize that Riverside and San Bernardino in this area have a strong impact, and we want to make sure we're recognizing that. So, thank you.
Thank you, Ben. I didn't have a vote, but I would have voted for you.
Thank you.
Mr. Tisdale, CalCog. All right. Mayor Bailey.
No meeting this last month.
Crystal?
Nothing to report.
Nothing on the Borders Committee. All right. Back to you, Mr. Bishop.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I also have nothing to report.
What? I know. All right. Items for future agendas. Anyone got any suggestions? Burning topics? None? General announcements. God, you guys want to get out of here, don't you? All right. Our next meeting is going to be here June 3rd, Monday, June 3rd, 2 p.m. And just like everyone to remember that we are adjourning today in the memory of our friend Jim Hyatt. We are adjourned.